What's going on, guys? What's going on, girls? I'm here, back again, a little later in the week. I put out an update video earlier this week on Monday. I've been in New York City traveling with the girlfriend, seeing the sights and everything, and she said, yeah, you can make a video if you like. I figured I'd rather spend the time there, enjoy it, and I would enjoy making videos on the road, but just wanted to spend time with the girlfriend. So I'm here on Wednesday, getting this video out as fast as I could. Got back late last night. Awesome trip. But we're going to break down this slate, the Week 16 slate. We got 2 seasons left in the regular season. Some things start to come into effect regarding is players going to sit, things like that. Since it is Wednesday, we do have some news, but I haven't looked at the slate at all. All I've seen is some injuries. I haven't really dived in too much into the week. That's what I usually do on my Wednesdays and Thursdays, break down some players' projections. So I'm looking to get into it here. I know that we had the top wide receiver contest going throughout the week, and I wanted to award somebody, right? I wanted to award somebody on the main slate. Kenny Golladay erupted. Nobody picked Golladay this week. Who else? Foster was the only guy who went for 100 yards and a touchdown, I believe, on the main slate in Buffalo with the Bills, and nobody picked him. Mike Evans, nobody picked him. He erupted. So I kept going so far down the slate, and I didn't want to just get all the way to the point where everybody was picking Juju and AB and guys that really didn't go off, and then we were just selecting between 50 guys and rewarding, basically picking like the 15th best receiver of the week. So I'm not going to reward anybody basically this week. Somebody did pick Adams. I thought about it. He was like the 6th, 5th highest scorer on the week. I don't even remember. Or actually, Doug Baldwin was actually in there because he had 2 touchdown receptions. Nobody picked him. So yeah, I figured that I would go down to the next receiver. I would even go down to the one before that. Even the 4th guy I was looking at, nobody had any of those guys. So we're going to move on. We're going to start a new contest up this week. It's going to be a $10 PayPal. To enter a $10 PayPal, all you're going to do is you're going to tell me, once again, who will be the highest scoring fantasy wide receiver based on DK points. We're going to see if we can get somebody who nails a top 5 receiver. If it's not in the top 5, then nobody's going to be getting it just because I don't want to go that far down. But yeah, let's get into the slate. Again, my name's Sal. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. We review DFS stuff, mainly football as of right now, but I will be trying to get into some more NBA and definitely some football videos throughout the entire offseason, just strategy-wise, based on bankroll, based on psychology side of it. Jonathan Bales has a lot of great books. You can check the description for those. I've read a lot of those GFS just to make your game sharper so you're not throwing money away. You're actually making money on the side, getting another source of income for you. As crazy as that might sound for you, it's possible. A lot of people are doing it. Chipotle Addict, the guy who's a top player right now, yes, he's been doing it for a while. He took home the $2 million prize with the fantasy Draftkings this week. He took home $2.25 million overall. He donated half of it, so props to him. That's incredible. But you can make extra money doing this. Maybe not millions, but if you're making an extra, I don't know, if you're just playing NFL season and in cash games, you put $100 in and you're making an extra $20 a week on average, that's a pretty good chunk of change. If you're just taking home an extra $500, that's a good bonus, and that's just playing low stakes. So just trying to help you out there. Going to be bringing off-season stuff is going to be around rankings. It's going to be around strategy. It's going to be around bankroll management, all those types of things for the NFL. Trying to get into MLB and NBA as well, just not as expertise in those fields, but we'll be touching on those as well. You can check out my blog in the link below, Daily Fantasy Assist. But let's get into it. That was just the introduction. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Going for 1,000 subs by the end of the NFL regular season. That's 2 weeks. We're a little bit behind with 200 people left. So I'd appreciate it. That tournament for the, or challenge for the $10 entry, PayPal, let's make it $15 PayPal, set in stone. Got to be a subscriber, and you got to comment below which wide receiver you think will have the greatest DraftKings points day based on points on DraftKings, PPR based. 3-point bonus for 100 yards, 6-point touchdown. All the works. So let's get into the slate now, right? We got another 2 games on Saturday. There'll be a Saturday video coming out basically like the same time you're seeing this, if not moments afterwards. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So Big Ben, highest score or highest rated guy. He's on the road going into New Orleans. New Orleans has been incredible right now. 6 straight games allowing 17 points or less, I believe. And their offense has basically hit a like a stunt point, right? They're not doing much of anything. Dallas shut them down. They got shut down by the Panthers, who the Panthers have been a defense just giving it up, really, in this 6-game losing streak that they're on. Drew Brees has looked terrible his last 3 games. The MVP discussion is completely over unless Patrick Mahomes goes out there and throws 10 interceptions in the next 2 games and does nothing, which I don't see happening at all. He still has stuff to play for, so does Drew Brees. They're both going to be out there, but Brees is not even in the MVP discussion, in my opinion, anymore. But that's the guy who's right here at 6,500. Big Ben, the highest priced guy. If we go click on Big Ben, obviously he has a good matchup. We got a fire truck coming, guys. Let's let them pass, you know what I'm saying? All right, fire truck pass. Yeah, so I mean, Big Ben hasn't been lighting it up at all, right? And now he's going on the road, a place where, I mean, this year he's had a little bit more success than in past years, but still a place that he doesn't play nearly as well as if he's in Pittsburgh. Again, this year a little bit different. It is a 4 o'clock game, so that's something good if you want to hammer that late game. There's small late game slates. It was pretty boring last week with only 2 games. But Big Ben, not a place I'm going in cash. And again, this is going to be a cash game build. Later in the week, I'll give you some of my tournament pool plays, maybe even later today, but most likely Thursday, maybe Friday, since this has been a backed up week. I'll be traveling home tomorrow for the holidays, so hopefully I can get it out tomorrow. And that basically is just going to be, I'll discuss it later for the tournament pool. But yeah, so we got Big Ben. Not really, don't even really think that I like him, even his matchup. Like New Orleans, yes, you can give it up. They give it up a little bit, but the last like month and a half of the season, they've been pretty locked down on defense. Even yardage-wise has been really sharpening up. Yes, Pittsburgh has a lot of weapons out there, especially now with Jalen Samuels running the ball well and also being able to receive the ball. Dual threat again out of the backfield like they've had with Connor all season, but maybe a guy who's even more athletic since he's accustomed to being a pass catcher. He won the Chipotle Addict $2 million by going off late. So Big Ben, not somebody I'm interested in. Deshaun Watson at Philadelphia. Now, Deshaun Watson against Philly, like we know, their receivers or their cornerbacks are all banged up. I believe they're all still banged up. And Watson, again, even in a bad game, he got 22 points. Or a game that seemed very slow-paced. Obviously, Hopkins went absolutely berserk in that game. I think Hopkins is the #1 receiver in the league, just based off of what he's been able to do in his entire career with no quarterbacks. Now he gets a guy like Watson. He's just been an absolute stud the last 2 years. I think he'll be the highest receiver taken off the board yet next year. In my opinion, he should be a top 10 pick in fantasy standard leagues. In my opinion, maybe even a top 8-7 pick. But that's just the receiver part of it. Watson's an absolute stud, still gets to work on the ground going into Philadelphia. But Philadelphia is still fighting for a playoff spot, right? So going into Philadelphia, they just beat, I believe, the Rams. So fighting for a playoff spot, they can definitely get it done. They can definitely compete here, get some things going on defense. Watson, though, at 6,600, not a bad option at all. Drew Brees, we touched on him. Don't really want to touch him, though. I mean, coming back home, yes, this is the perfect spot for him to get right against a decent Steelers defense. Again, look at this. 3 games, doesn't even eclipse 16 points. 2 of them single digits in his last 3. Nothing spectacular there, not something I want to pay up for. Jared Goff at Arizona is an interesting play. We just saw Arizona get lit up a little bit by Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons. I think Matt Ryan might have been the highest scoring quarterback on the main slate. Not positive, though. The last time I checked, he was. But look at this. I have Jared Goff in my standard league. I'm in the championship in my family league. And yeah, so this is not something you want to see. He's a guy who's going to go off in games that are close, right? Games that you have to score. KC absolutely goes berserk in that game. That was just an incredible game overall. Seattle, they put up 30 points. He had to put up points. He went for 24. They put up 45 points. He had to throw the ball. He got 33. Green Bay puts up 27. He puts up 26. Like literally games where the other team, they put up 31. He puts up basically a 20 burger. They put up 23. If the other team's scoring like 3 touchdowns, he's going to be forced to throw the ball a little bit more, and he'll do well. I don't think Arizona's going to be putting up 3 touchdowns. Based on the pace in this game, I'm going to stay away from it. Aaron Rodgers, don't want to really touch on this. A lot of expensive quarterbacks now that I look at this on first look. But Rodgers, they're saying he might not play, but Joe Philbin said that, yes, he's going to play unless there's something wrong with him. The questionable tag is really just coming from the fact that he might sit out these last 2 games because he's a stud and they have nothing to play for. I don't think that's the right decision to make. Maybe the last week of the season. Still, though, play for it. I mean, get some chemistry with these rookie receivers that you drafted a ton of them going forward. And, yeah, so we got that's definitely another guy. Mitch Trubisky's interesting at 6,300. He's been absolutely struggling through the past 4 games of the season. Throwing the ball, he looks terrible, really. Still getting some work on the ground, but he's not doing exactly what he did in the first, 7 weeks of the season, where he went for 30-plus, 4 times in a 5-week span or whatever it was. But now we get San Francisco in pretty good weather conditions, where they're still fighting for the 2 seed out there, right? The Bears have to win. They have to play their starters, so that's definitely interesting. Andy Luck at home, he's just been tearing it up at 6,200. Seems like a decent play for a spot where a lot of quarterbacks are around him with bigger names. People might come off of him due to this. Last time that happened, people came off of him due to this, and he had a really great game, right? Almost 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. You can get yours against the Giants. Yes, I know that this is going to say that they're ranked 4th, and yes, they do have a decent pass defense, but nothing that's that scary. And Andrew Luck at home has been tearing apart everybody for the most part. I like that. Carolina, at home, they're pretty much done. Cam has seemed injured, can't get the ball down the field. People are saying as much. He's just been pretty pitiful. His rushing stats do give you some upside. Now he gets Atlanta. Cam's the guy that I'm going to be targeting probably. I don't know what ownership looks like at all, but most likely more in tournaments due to the fact that this happened and nobody's really going to want to be on him, and he's got a lot of bad press right now, so nobody's going to be liking him at all. fan share. If you ever look into that, they say who's been the most targeted guy in podcasts, articles, things like that. That's how you can kind of predict ownership in some ways. Cam's probably going to be negative and all that. You want positive expectation. That's what we got out of Spencer Ware when he was playing. That's the last we got out of Juju everywhere. So many people are owning these guys. Andrew Luck and Cam Newton are guys in tournaments that I like. I mean, in cash, you can probably get there with them, but for their price, I'd more like them in tournaments. Baker's been tearing it up. I might put Baker in against Cincinnati, who's been bottom 5 just all year long. They can't get right on defense or offense injury-wise. It's really just been limiting this team. Yes, Baker's last 2 starts out there haven't been great. At home against Carolina was basically a dud. On the road against Denver in a primetime game, that's a spot that's going to be difficult against that pass rush. Now you get Cincinnati, who gets no pass rush, who has really no pressure at all. I mean, bottom 3 in the league in pressure. This is a really nice spot for Baker. Got a couple other guys down here. Kirk Cousins in the divisional matchup. They still have to play. They still have to win out. Cousins in the new offense. They put up 41 points. Dalvin Cook kind of went off in that game. But Cousins didn't do terrible, right? Have a decent, really good passer rating based on limited attempts of only 21. Is that something that they're going to be doing more so moving forward, relying on Dalvin Cook? Maybe. But again, I think it was just a product of blowing out a team with a bad run defense, which again, that could happen against Detroit. So let's just pick a QB. We'll look down a little bit lower here. Yeah, Nick Foles, don't want to touch him even though he's cheap against a good Texans D at home. Jameis, 5,500, all the way down to 5,500 for Jameis. He had a bad last week against Baltimore. Yes, on the road in Baltimore is a tough matchup. On the road in Dallas is also a tough matchup. But we did see Andrew Luck have success against them last week. Or the Colts offense overall on the ground had more success against them. So maybe stay away from a guy like Jameis. Let's plug Baker in here at 6,100 and see where we can go from there. Running backs. This is the part of the thing I love the most. Just put the guys in who are incredible. $9,000 Zeke. He's playing Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay gave up like 240 yards last week. I really like in this situation Zeke. $9K. I'll pay for him. Last week I paid for him at this price pretty much. Yeah, exact same price last week. In a game where his team got shut out, Zeke went for 18.8 points. That's like Zeke's floor these days. Look. 8 more targets. His target share is just incredible. Over, I think, the last, month of the season, I think he's one of 10 guys who have had at least 20% target share in their offense. Amari Cooper is also one of those guys, I believe, so 2 guys on the same team. But he's basically a wide receiver 1 out there, right? He's catching 7 balls, 12 balls, 6 balls, 5 balls in each of the games over the past month. Getting consistent targets, increasing targets, right? 6 or more targets in all the games the last 6 weeks. I see that increasing against Tampa Bay, who, yes, they're a little bit shored up, especially when they're at home, so they're on the road, a place to kind of take them apart. They're a little bit better in between the tackles with McCoy out there, things like that. But Zeke's a guy who can take it to the outside again. They're dumping off these screen passes to him. They're using him in the backfield a ton. His floor got you 11 points, more than half of his points last week when he didn't get in the end zone. Hasn't gotten in the end zone on the ground in 3 weeks. Overall, he hasn't gotten in the end zone in 2 weeks. That's something that we know is going to change based on his workload, based on his usage rate. Look, 25 touches last week in a game where they scored no points. 40 flipping touches the week before. 29. I mean, he's averaging 25 touches a week, if not closer to 30. So Zeke's in there. It's not even a question. We'll make the rest work at that point. Kyle Gurley is definitely a stay away from me because they just signed, I forgot who they signed. They signed another running back. And McVay and the Rams are in a good position. Yes, they still need to win out, but they can kind of do that. The running back doesn't win you games unless maybe you're the Giants right now with Saquon. But again, running backs don't win you games. Todd Gurley's a special talent. They're going to need him for the playoffs. They're very conservative. Sean McVay has been in his career and as a coach, just resting players. So I don't want to touch Gurley. McCaffrey against Atlanta. Let's plug that in. I have McCaffrey in my standard league. He's going up against Atlanta. The flow chart all year has been target guys against Atlanta. They're bottom 2 in the league against pass-catching running backs, receptions, giving up the second most in the league. It might be now the first. I don't know what the Colts did last week. Or no, it's still going to be the second most in the league. The Colts gave up 7 to Zeke. So the Colts are still giving up the most receptions to running backs in the league. Atlanta's right there, though, in second. And targeting Atlanta has been just money all year long. You're making money. They're bottom 10 in the league in every type of DVOA stat. McCaffrey, if we could fit both these guys at 8,800 plus, that's where we want to go. We might have to come down at QB. But, I mean, if we want to just glance over the other running backs, all the studs are on the board this week, right? I mean, Nick Chubb's a great play against Cincinnati. He's cheaper, too, so maybe we go there if we want to get off of one of the other guys. But I think that those guys are just set up for so much success against 2 of the worst defenses against pass-catching running backs in Tampa Bay, in Atlanta, and you get 2 of the 3 most productive guys in the year. McCaffrey, I believe he's the only guy I saw stat in standard leagues who hasn't finished below running back 24 in the year. His worst finish was like 21, RB 21, and that was week 1 of the year. You can see what he did week 1 of the year, only 14 points. Since then, he's just been on an absolute tear. I mean, as of late, just monster tear his usage. Don't want to touch Kamara due to the splits out there, due to a tougher matchup. Saquon, he's probably going to be a great tournament play this week due to these two guys being priced up a little bit. A lot of guys are going to try and go for them. I feel like this range right here might be high owned in the Chubb, in the Mixon. Again, Mixon, with the Bengals being eliminated, he might not play as much. I have him in my standard league. I'm a little worried about that. But his touches and his usage is just incredible right now, right? He won me my game last week. I had him a lot last week, almost 100% in some of my tournament lineups due to his price. He comes up $1,000 in a great matchup against Cleveland, right? On the road, scares you a little bit. Don't know if he's going to get a lot of touches, but these guys are all great plays. Dalvin Cook went off. He gets Detroit, who's been, since getting Damian Harris and snacks, has been actually pretty good if you look at the splits. He went off last week. Tons of people are going to be on him. A good fade spot for tournaments, but if that isn't any indication of what Dalvin Cook is, again, he got 20 touches last week. Maybe he's also a pretty good cash game play at 6,900. I just can't get myself off these guys. Even in tournaments, I don't know if I want to come off of them. And I'm also going to do shows about tournaments, mindset, philosophy, ways to be contrarian in some of the off-season shows. But I'll just mention that, like, paying up for these guys, yes, that's probably going to be where a lot of people go this week. I don't know, though, because there is some value down here. When you come down, Leonard Fournette only played on a certain amount of snaps. But there is value when you talk about a guy like Jamal Williams, who saw a lot of touches last week. He gets the Jets this week. 12 touches with Aaron Jones being out. He was on the field for like 80-something% of the snaps. There is value when you talk about a guy like Elijah McGuire going up against the Packers, who just put Kenny Clark, one of the top pass rush stoppers. He's up there with Damian Snacks Harrison. Not as good, but obviously he's up there. I believe he is a stud. He's only 23 years old. He just got put on IR. He's literally the heart and soul of that run stop. Mike Daniels is already out for them. They lost tons of guys this year on that D-line. They're kind of just packing it in injury-wise. And he's the stud out there, right? He got 21 touches. In a game where they were trailing for most of the game. He's at 4,700 against Green Bay. If we could fit him in the flex, he's where I want to go, right? Now let's see if any of these guys are playing at 4. There's 3 4 o'clock games this week. So none of the guys that we have in this, Detroit, Carolina, none of them are playing at 4, so we're fine there. But this is where I want to go with a build, right? I want to go with McGuire against a banged up and just a team that's done in Green Bay, and he's a guy who's fresh, right? He came off the injury report, I think like 6 weeks into the year, whatever it was, we could check. He came off the injury report. Week 9 was his first time, so he was a fresh running back with legs and talent, and he's used in the passing game incredibly. He's a guy that I want to go to. I know that in Miami that they had an injury to their running back, Frank Gore, and they really never used Kenny Drake after that. They used Ballage, who, I mean, yeah, he was really efficient, right? He seems like the guy that they want to move forward with, but he had a 75-yard touchdown run, I believe. So that's a lot of that. Don't look too much into that, but at 3,700 at home, it's not a terrible matchup. Or it's not a terrible spot, but not a great matchup, I would say. Let's go defense. Let's just see what we can find cheap, just a plug-in. We'll put the Jets in for now. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, I'm fine going with this because you also get correlation here at home. I'm fine going with that once again. Now we have 4,800. We might have to come down at quarterback if we want to fit these studs in. Let's see where we can get at tight end, though. Again, this is a first look. It is later in the week, but let's just see what we could do here trying to build a lineup with Baker. First thing I saw right away is just David Njoku because I wanted to try and pair Baker with somebody. I don't really like Landry too much, and I have a feeling we're not going to be able to afford Landry. 6,200, no, most likely not. Njoku, though, at 3,800 isn't a bad play against Cincinnati, who is pretty awful. Last time out against Cincinnati, he had that crazy touchdown, had a good game. His targets have been kind of dipping, and they've been all over the place over the last 2 months of the year based on where they started at, getting double-digit targets upwards of 7 a week. And he's been kind of slow these last few weeks. I do like him, though, in a situation where tight end is a wasteland. If we want to look at the tight end position overall, I don't want to pay up for Kittle against Chicago. That's a tough matchup, even at home. Ertz against Houston is actually a really good matchup, and Ertz is just an absolute monster. But without Wentz out there, I worry a little bit. Yes, I know that he still gets looked at by guys like Nick Foles. You can see what happened in the first few weeks of the season, but he's much more efficient with Wentz. Has an incredible chemistry with Wentz. That's where Wentz looks all the time. It seems like Foles has a little bit more of a chemistry with Jeffrey, and we saw that in that Sunday night game. Ebron, he's just been a stud all year. He finally had his dud, though, right? He was chalk. Ebron might have finally finished it. I don't know if he was a complete chalk. We could check Fantasy Labs, actually, for that, I believe, what the tight end position looked like last week in these tournaments while that loads. Gronk, again, people making excuses for why he's being bad. He's being used on line more, and he's slowing down, right? A lot of people are on him because of this, and then he does a dud. A lot of people are going to come off of him now at Buffalo or at home against Buffalo, a spot where he's had a lot of success in his career. against any really divisional opponent. He's murdered Miami, good against Buffalo. Could be a spot to jump back on in tournaments, not in cash. Evan Ingram had a lot of good efficiency. He's finally healthy. He came out there. He saw a season high in receptions and targets. Had a great game at 4,600. I'd be tempted to go here in cash against Indy if we can get up there. But wanting to stack Baker with one of his pass catchers if we stay on Baker, this is a spot I like, especially now that we get 5,100 to spend at wide receiver, and we're still getting these two studs here. McGuire just opens up insane value. And yes, Cannon was out there, but McGuire out-touched him immensely. I mean, we could look at that right now. McGuire had 21 touches on 22 opportunities. Cannon had like 3 receptions in a row, and that's really what got him some points early on. Yeah, Cannon only had 10 touches compared to 21, and the snap counts weren't even close. Cannon getting, again, 3 receptions on like 3 plays in a row. Not worried about Cannon cutting in too much there for McGuire, who's the fresher legs guy. Let's see Fantasy Labs quick, just if we could see contest dashboards and just type in what last week the ownership was on Ebron. So last week, Ebron was, and I have to re-upgrade, I guess. Ebron was 14% owned, pretty decently high owned in the Millie Maker for a tight end, and we saw he's higher up in higher stakes, or 16 in the slant, and he finally, so that is pretty chalky for a tight end, right, upwards of 20% owned, and he finally failed, something he hasn't done all year, which is actually rare to say based on his career. Let's see what we can fit at wide receiver now, though. And you guys, just real quick, I want to show you something. This draft dashboard, if you are a viewer who's been watching, I have showed this before. I don't know why my laptops keep us opening other browsers. Draft dashboard, though, I had 35 players in my watch list last week. You got access to that. I trimmed it down. I show on Thursdays, sometimes on Fridays when I get the picks out. And by picks, I just mean guys that are in a watch list that I'm looking at. And then I kind of I make that a little bit more refined by Saturday, and then that's who the players I'm using in my tournament allocations. These are some of the guys that I had. I actually didn't end up using Big Ben. I should have taken him out. But these are some of the guys that I had in those lineup. I took McCoy out, obviously, because he got hurt. And honestly, last week was a rough week. I got Tavon Coleman right. Devontae Adams has been the most consistent guy all year. Only guy with 15-plus points in every single game that's not a quarterback. Zeke did fairly well. I actually didn't play any Barkley either. I should have taken him out. He might have been, I think he was in like one lineup, so I kept him in. Had very low allocation to him. Ebron was a guy that I didn't have a ton of because I paid down at tight end. I had a lot of Jalen Samuels, so that helped me. I had a good amount of Larry Fitz, so that actually helped. Had a lot of Calvin Ridley. That kind of hurt me. Early on, he did well, but then he didn't do anything after that. I think I'm going to go back to the wall with Ridley, though. I think he has another big week left in him. These are just some of the guys that I put into my tournament allocations. You can get access to that. You can do a lot of different things. Projections they have in here. You could build build watch lists and lineup optimize through there. It's 30 days for $1. You could sign up below, and if you sign up through that link, you get access to my player pools that are refined, the exact guys that I'm using in tournaments, give or take 1 or 2 that I forget to take out, if I do, based on injury or something like that. Just wanted to show you that. Now let's go to wide receiver and just fill these in. We got a decent amount of money to play around with that wide receiver due to finding value with McGuire and also Njoku going down all the way to the Jets defense as of right now. Wide receiver all the way up here. Julio's just been a guy who's dominating. The story was he can't score touchdowns, and now the guy has, what, 5, 6. He's got 6 touchdowns on the year. Just like that, he could easily finish the year with 8 touchdowns if he keeps it up at this rate. He's just been tearing it up. Definitely the best wide receiver on the season. Devontae Adams might be more consistent. I have a better consistency ranking. Just due to some of these duds early on from Julio and him doing this, which Devontae hasn't done all year. Again, Devontae scored 15-plus in every single week. Julio hasn't scored 15 for the weeks, basically 3. But Julio's an absolute stud. Good matchup against Carolina. Should absolutely eat up Bradbury on the outside. Hopkins, absolute stud, incredible matchup. This is a spot that I really want to target, actually, probably more so in tournaments because I'd rather pay up for the 2 stud running backs. But if you want to be contrarian in tournaments, go for the wide receiver. The guy who just did this, though, might be higher owned, right? Guy who just went for 42, but he has a great matchup against guys off the streets in Philadelphia is the thing that a lot of people are saying. Adams, it doesn't really, it matters a lot more if Rodgers is playing, right? But even the backup quarterback's going to look at him, but his value takes a huge hit, 8,500. Not really a spot I want to go. And this is tough because there's a lot of good wide receivers in great matchups. Antonio Brown on the road, we like to stay away from that usually in his career. New Orleans, though, good matchup. In a game where this is the 4 o'clock game that Antonio can just finally go off, right? He hasn't done it in a couple weeks now. That's a primetime game. Maybe not primetime, but it's going to be game of the week on national TV. A lot of people are going to see it. Juju is also a good bet there. I mean, all the wide receivers, all the studs are on this slate everywhere. Interesting play would maybe be going Amari Cooper, because every time you come off of Amari Cooper, people came off of him after he did this. They got excited when they saw what he did. He got a lot of targets. He did this. Then he goes off on Thanksgiving. People try and chase it. He does decent. People try and chase, or people jump off of it because he doesn't do as well. Does that. Nobody expecting it. Comes off of it. Lays an egg. It's a perfect week to target him against Tampa Bay. Not sure if I want to stack this again. I mean, if we did, how much is Dak this week? Dak's 5,700. That saves us some money if you want to go Cowboys stack, which has won all the money a couple times for some people. Definitely not a bad option because we might be able to afford it. We get 3,900. We might be able to if we find a really value wide receiver down there. But let's keep looking. Just again, all the studs are on this. Landry at 62. We can afford him now, actually, if we really wanted to. He's just not a spot that I really want to go to. Still getting good targets, but it's just converting those targets isn't happening, and he hasn't been getting in the end zone. Yes, he had 2 a couple weeks ago, but not so much. Galladay's a hard guy to put a target on. He's an absolute stud. He can beat number 1 receivers like he did with White, or cornerbacks like he did with White. Now he gets Xavier Rhodes. Again, not sure I want to target it. Him being at home helps us, though, and he's only at 6K. Definitely good. DJ Moore, he's just up and down, right? Overall bad game, and he's kind of going down, so is his whole offense outside of McCaffrey. Based on what Cam's doing, right? He can't get him the deep balls. He's always getting pretty long runs, as you can see here. So it definitely factors in a couple more points. But he did fumble. That did his only long run. Again, I want to go back to Ridley here at 5,100. In cash, though, it's tough to, right? He did have 7 targets. In tournaments, he's a spot that I want to go back to because his price just keeps dipping, and he's a guy who can go for 2 touchdowns any single week, and he repeatedly keeps having good matchups. If he's going to be in the slot against Munderland, it's a great opportunity. Sanu might not be there a little bit, but again, great opportunity. Foster's price has come up, but it still hasn't come up a ton. He has a good matchup against New England. New England might be able to take him out, though. He's really just catching deep bomb touchdowns for the most part in these last couple of weeks. Not a terrible play, though. Might go back to the well with Larry Fitz. Old man Larry finishing up maybe his last year. He's getting peppered with targets now that Kirk's done there, and he's converting them decently. 15 points in cash isn't terrible at 5,200. He gets you there, 3xing basically. And if he gets in the end zone, which we've seen him be able to do this year, a couple of times. I mean, he's done it like, what, 5 times this year, so that's not bad. 5,200. Now we have 5,100 to spend. These wide receivers in Godwin's price down. Wow. And Godwin might be the guy not seeing Byron Jones. Again, this is concerning, right? He had a really tough matchup. He still has a tough matchup now against Dallas. But at 4,300, Godwin's an interesting play. Just a tough matchup. These Tampa Bay receivers, everybody's coming off of them, right? Everybody's coming completely off of these Tampa Bay receivers due to the fact that they haven't been doing good the last 2 weeks, right? Part of that's on Winston. Part of that's just people getting pressure on Winston, right? When he gets pressure, he just absolutely collapses. New Orleans did that. Baltimore did that. I think I'm going to put in, and again, this is difficult because cash, I like to see opportunities, and like he's not getting a ton of opportunities. But just as of right now, I'm going to put in Ridley because I do like him at that price in this matchup. And they might be sitting Julio, again, who is dealing with an injury, and there's not really much reason to push him and risk aggravating it and having offseason issues. 5,100. We have some other plays. And right here, for the sake of just kind of finishing up this video, I don't know if I want 2 Jets players. I do like Godwin, though, but we can fit Humphries, who's going to get more targets. Adam Levitan said Humphries is like the condom play. It's conservative compared to Godwin. Godwin on the outside might be the better overall weapon. Humphries, though, even in a bad matchup the last few weeks, was still able to see a lot of targets and see a lot of receptions, or a decent amount of receptions based on the amount of completions that Winston had. This is concerning, but if he gets in the end zone either of these weeks, decent cash week. I'll put Humphries in here for now. I do like this lineup because it allows us to get a running back total, which I think should eclipse 60 and should eclipse 70, quite honestly, based on their pass catching abilities, all of them. Gives us a good quarterback in a good situation with his tight end, and then three wide receivers that I feel comfortable about. Definitely feel comfortable about Larry Fitz. I do feel comfortable about Ridley, but that's probably just a personal bias. Probably going to end up changing that. And Humphries is a guy just to kind of finish it off. We can go up somewhere else, maybe a defense with the remainder of our salary, if we choose to do so. Yeah, so I mean, I feel comfortable about this lineup. This is a cash game. First look on Wednesday, so a little later. Hope you guys are able to view it. I know that you guys are probably deep into research by now, but I just wanted to get this out there. Thank you guys again Could change this up if we wanted to. I mean, we can come up, we can target Allen Robinson, we can come up, maybe even get to a guy like Josh Gordon, then go down a little bit lower, or not Josh Gordon, but Gordon too. But I mean, Kenny Galladay, don't know if I want to chase that. Coming down a little bit more, maybe I didn't really look at value wide receivers too much. Not really concerned with that all that much. Where's Pettis at, actually? Because he's getting a lot of volume. Pettis is at 4,300, so yeah, we can do Pettis instead if you guys feel more comfortable. Tough matchup against Detroit, but he's been a guy who they're putting out there a lot more than Goodwin, and that's because they want to see what they got, right? And the kid's been doing really well. There's another way you could do the lineup. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Check out Draft Dashboard. You can get my access to my player pool, $1 for 30 days, link below. You can check it out there. Check out Fantasy Labs. I don't get anything from this. I just use it. It's a great tool. You can do a lot of different things with optimizers. There's like a 5-day trial for $10 or $15. I don't know what it is. But that's a cool spot too. Check out the blog. Check out the description below. Appreciate you guys. Who's going to be the highest scoring DraftKings wide receiver on the main slate? Drop that below. Got to be a subscriber to do it. Best of luck this week. I'll be back with more videos in this Saturday video I'm about to shoot as well. So, peace.